All right, hey there, YouTube. We're going to hop into some Moldova news. Seems to be a hot topic amongst some very vocal people in the chat who are annoying the shit out of me. Thank you so much for following, Chad Mary. Very much appreciate it. We're going to move on over to Moldova here. Seems to be, a lot of hot news, a lot of, some gaslighting happening. I guess the people of Moldova would be okay with, I don't know, being conquered by Russia. I'm not sure what the hell the narrative is really, but it's my understanding that people would like independence from oppressive empires, especially ones that will intentionally hold you down in an effort to make the core of Russia look better, which is, we have evidence of that. It's Russia doesn't take care of you as a vassal. It's not like joining the Mongolians, right? Back in the day, they would just be like, hey, join. Some people would just gladly hand over their empire when they were invading, right? Because, well, they didn't want to be slaughtered, but also they're like, well, it's actually a better empire. Just trade our empires in. I don't think that's what the Moldovans want. I think they want independence from Russia, but I guess there is talk of unification with Romania, which would be interested. We're trying to stay positive, Chad. It's tough. It's tough to stay positive in such a nihilistic world. But anyway, let's try to get some facts here. We're going to be introducing this. I've never heard of this before. RD.TV documentary. We're going to be taking a little look at this. I don't think we have the whole time for 18 minutes, but we'll definitely get a clip from that after this CNN clip here.
This is one face of Russia's hybrid war to destabilize Ukraine's tiny neighbor, Moldova. An organized pro-Russian protest.
I see. Maybe this was the protest being mentioned in the chat.
Up by apparent pro-Russian political provocateurs, claiming intimidation, calling for the overthrow of Moldova's prime minister. It's just one element in a sinister, secret Russian intelligence document obtained by CNN, systematically laying out ways to bring down the nation's Western-leaning leaders. In addition to organized protest, options include utilizing the Orthodox Church, threatening to cut off energy supplies. Its 10-year strategy, titled Strategic Objectives of the Russian Federation in the Republic of Moldova, appears to have been written 2 years ago by Russia's KGB replacement, the FSB. The aim, creation of stable pro-Russian groups of influence and the formation of negative attitudes towards NATO.
Really,
Moldovan
they have these documents for Belarus as well.
Increasingly seeing its volatile effects.
And this black propaganda, actually...
I mean, Russia follows this template. They really do. I'm not being Russia-phobic. There is a template they follow that, when it comes to how they've been attempting to conquer these old Soviet, states, countries, whatever you want to call them.
Is getting
regions
to many people in form of manipulation that the Western and European integration path will only lead the country to a war.
Russia's aggression appears triggered by Moldova's shift to the West, reaction to Russia's war in Ukraine. The Kremlin spokesman denies the FSB plan exists, dismisses it as a fake. But only last year, Russian military officials were boasting battlefield gains in southern Ukraine would soon link Russia with Russian troops in the pro-Russian breakaway Transnistria region of Moldova.
Now's the time.
It didn't happen, but a few days later, tensions spiked as 2 radio towers in the separatist region were blown up. No details emerged, but the FSB plan raises troubling questions about the possibility of a false flag operation. And Russian missiles en route to kill and maim in Ukraine routinely fly close to or even inside Moldova.
You don't hear much about that. We made a big deal about
Moldovan airspace also looked less accidental, more intentional, in light of the report.
We permanently asked for the unconditional evacuation of the Russian forces which are illegally stationed in Moldova's territory, including the evacuation of the ammunition depot in Kobazna.
Western allies are increasingly showing solidarity. The UK's Foreign Secretary, the latest high-profile visitor, offering no weapons, but strong...
You know, and there's immediately the conspiratorial, you know, part of you goes, yeah, you see Moldova is being manipulated by the West. And, you know, like, I don't think that's as much of the case as they're taking advantage of an advantageous situation. You know, as we've seen with Afghanistan, if there's no will to fight, if there's no real desire to, you know, flush these elements out, to push back against whatever you're fighting against, you're not going to achieve it, even with Western logistics, training, and weapons. But that doesn't appear to be the case with Ukraine, and maybe this is the United States trying to hedge its bets even further. I think what the left also needs to acknowledge is that the United States is not being, like, the pro-Ukrainian left needs to acknowledge is that the United States is not doing this out of the kindness of their heart, that they are doing this because, you know, it's an attempt to have a certain kind of control over the entire world. Not world dominance in the supervillain kind of way, but the United States empire is interested in having leverage over every empire in the world. The United States would be happy to have every country kind of under its thumb, so to speak. And, you know, and there is a legitimate pushback against that. It just so happens that some of these elements pushing back against the United States are not really that great. But let's not forget that the United States is happy to support terrible regimes and horrific governments if it benefits them in the short or long term. Doesn't really matter to them. But if it benefits the United States, the government will look the other way. Saudi Arabia, Israel, there's a bazillion different examples of the United States supporting horrible regimes. I mean, Al-Qaeda, right? Donald Rumsfeld, right? We all, with Saddam Hussein. Million different examples here. So I really would like to see the left become more nuanced in their, you know, support of Ukraine and their criticisms of the United States and the military-industrial complex, because it's a very dangerous element, and it really should be checked. And it really does seem like it's just doing whatever the hell it wants to do, and it just so happens to benefit the people in Ukraine. But what happens when it doesn't benefit people? And, you know, people like Woke Patriot and I, we've seen what happens when the interest of the United States clashes with the interests of humanity. And it ain't pretty. It isn't nice. The United States does have the capacity to show no mercy. Let's, you know, I don't know. I just didn't want to blow the United States too hard here.
Support.
So one of the best ways that we can help physically protect Moldova from harm is to ensure the Ukrainians are able to defend themselves against Russian attack.
As long as Russia remains on the offensive in neighboring Ukraine, and perhaps longer, Moldova will likely be in Moscow's crosshairs.
Yeah. And this is really tough because I need to, it's for me to stay like a pro-peace lefty, but also support military action against empire. I have to be very careful, and I have to use a lot of nuance in what I'm talking about, because, you know, is Moldova the situation like it is in Ukraine, where they're, you know, that they're willing to fight for this, or is this the West or Western interests here in the UK? That, you know, they had a UK representative there. Is this Western interests just trying to take advantage of a situation and possibly plunging a populace in a country that is not ready for that kind of violence, nudging them into a war that they're just really not ready for, because I don't know. I mean, what would happen? Do you think Putin would send in the troops? You know, if they were really to do like a Ukrainian style revolution, and and kick out the Russian influences in their government. I don't. He'd want to. He'd want to. I think. I don't know if he'd have the resources. All right. So real quick, let's just get a look at this. I've never heard of this. Arty.tv documentary: Tensions in Moldova, Wildfires in Europe. Arty Europe Weekly. So let's take a look at this. I don't know who this is. I don't
This
know.
week,
I don't know who's paying for it. So just, give me a break.
there's trouble in Moldova. We take a look at how Europe is preparing for the forest fire season.
And right off the bat, am I like on drugs? I mean, I actually am on drugs, but am I like on really good drugs? Like, is this for patients that are like in the hospital on painkillers or something?
Plus a glimpse of life in political exile in Paris. Moldova, the small nation sandwiched between Ukraine and Romania, is feeling vulnerable.
Is he trapped in the back rooms? I like the story about a piglet and a wolf. Piglet, USA was pranking his friends, the citizens, that a wolf is coming, WMDs, terrorist commies. And then one time some wolf actually really showed up. Friends are telling the piglet to shut the fuck up and stop the bullshit. That's where we are. It is interesting to see the left defend Putin in an effort to be consistent against the United States empire. It's like, don't we have the capacity to hate all empiric ambitions? We're really going to do the partisan rah, my team, not your team stuff with this? It's a little embarrassing. The Hammer and Sickle crew on Twitter, and the Code Pinks and the Aaron Mates and the Glenn Greenwalds. It's a little embarrassing.
When Russia invaded its neighbour last year, Moldova felt threatened and quickly applied for fast-track EU membership. Now, the Kremlin has been trying to destabilise the former Soviet state, already torn between pro-Russian and pro-European elements. As we'll see, recent protests and leaked secret documents are revealing more about Russia's plans.
Am I on painkillers? I feel like he's hypnotizing me.
Since the war in Ukraine began...
Is this like hypno-porno? This is that hypno-porno all you kids are talking about.
Moldova has become increasingly nervous. Could this small republic be next in the firing line? It's quite possible, said its president last month. For the first time, she issued a warning about a possible Russian coup, carried out either directly through attacks on government buildings or indirectly.
By organising violent movements disguised as protests by the so-called opposition, a change of power in Chisinau is being pursued.
For weeks, there have been demonstrations against the pro-European government, with thousands of people taking to the streets in the capital and many being arrested. High energy prices and an inflation rate of more than 30% are the focus of the protests. Gas prices are currently 3 times higher than before the war in Ukraine, and Russia has cut back on its deliveries.
Isn't that great? That's Russian-style diplomacy, right? Do what we say or we'll make your life miserable. Because, they could get a lot more people being like pro-Russia if their gas prices were like, 50 cents a gallon or something. People would be like, hey, you know what? I don't know much about politics. I just know that Putin is directly responsible for making gas really cheap. Because they could easily do that. They're helping India out. They're selling it for pennies on the dollar over there in India. So that is so interesting that they're choking it off when they could be getting so many more people on their side. If they're a gas supplier in Moldova, but instead of doing that, they decide to twist and cut them off. Man, they just don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Our pension is so miserable that we've been freezing all winter.
We are 100% dependent on Russian energy. Bitch. That's why we must be friends with Russia. I'm not saying we should go back to the Soviet era. We want good relations with Europe and Russia. The Republic of Moldova is a neutral and independent country, and we have no interest in conflict.
An independent Moldova?
That's fair.
The Kremlin seems to have other plans. At least, that's what a document leaked this week suggests. According to analysis of it by 12 international media outlets, Russia sees Moldova as a battleground for its power struggle with the West. It aims to increase its influence in the country by 2030 by building closer trade ties, setting up Russian universities, and increasing its media presence.
And once again, that's classic Russian playbook. I'm not being Russophobic here. Like this, look into the history. You see this. This is how it's an attempt to assimilate places by injecting their culture. Like, it's not even a joke. Like, they've weaponized their own culture, the cool things about being Russian, and they try to force them into places in an attempt. It's kind of like missionary work, like the Christians do, right? They go to some place and they're like, and they inject their own beliefs kind of by force, but this is much more forceful than any Christian missionary who's trying to feed people and say, hey, you want to read this Bible with me while we eat some rice? There really is an attempt to weaponize the Russian culture and inject it into places, in a weird assimilation attempt. It's really bizarre.
Western security experts say the document is authentic, but Russia denies it all.
I'm not aware of the
God, this fucking guy, dude. Every time I see his face, I fucking want to puke.
Existence of such a plan. I would not rule out that this is some kind of fake, many of which are published in the Western media. Russia has always been and remains open to establishing good, mutually beneficial relations with its neighbors, including with Moldova.
I don't think that person has ever legitimately told the truth in his entire career. I wouldn't trust a single thing he said.
Despite such reassurances, Moldova's government is on guard. But what about its people? How do the country's 2.5 million citizens view Russian influence?
Let's address
We're back to the back rooms.
That last question now. We spoke to Arte reporter Manu Dantes, who was recently filming in Moldova, about how locals view the situation in their country and about the extent of Russian influence there.
He's in the back rooms all alone.
You've just returned from filming a report in Moldova.
Okay.
We've seen the recent
All right, we'll get this quick report, and then we're going to move on for today's Moldovan news. I have so much other news I need to cover.
Revelations about Russian interference there, and it seems Moscow already exerts much more than just influence over Moldova.
Hi, Jonas. Yes, I just got back recently. In Moldova, there is a significant Russian minority in the Transnistria region, which is a separatist region that would like to be recognized as independent. At the moment, only Moscow recognizes that independence, which it has done since 1992. There are about 1,500 Russian soldiers stationed in Transnistria, but it's important to note that, for the moment, these Russian forces are not particularly well equipped. Perhaps they could be used as support in the event of an operation. But given the current context in Ukraine, this doesn't seem very likely, according to experts I've spoken with.
On the political side, who are these pro-Russian forces who are trying to destabilize the Moldovan government?
There's a notable destabilization operation currently being evoked by the Moldovan political class, mainly the Shor party. In fact, though, this party, which represents only 8 to 10% of voters, pays most of the protesters representing it to go and march in the streets.
Okay.
It also offers to go.
I would like to apologize to to those two people, because I was mixing up the protests happening in Moldova with protests I think happening in either France or Greece, because it does look like these protests are being astroturfed. Interesting.
And pick them up, often from the countryside, and sends buses to bring them into the city. Apparently, each protester receives 30 euros to compensate them for a day's work demonstrating.
That's good money. Free trip downtown and 30 euros?
You met with a lot of people in Moldova. Are there tensions among the population? Are people divided? What was your sense of the situation there?
I got the feeling that Moldovans don't feel particularly under threat from a potential Russian invasion at the moment. They are much more worried about their daily lives. Inflation is very high, and their purchasing power is very low. It's just about the poorest country in Europe. I really got the impression that people are more preoccupied with how to make ends meet each month.
Merci Manu pour cette interview et à bientôt.
Merci, à bientôt.
And we're back to the back rooms. I don't know about this whole thing here, man. I don't know about this. presenter. I think like I said, I think he's on painkillers. I don't know about hanging out in the back rooms with this guy. At the same time, I really love this. I'm going to subscribe. I want to see more of their stuff. I think they're actually doing some really good reporting. I'm just shitting on them. Make sure you check them out, like and subscribe, folks. News from the back rooms. I'm down. That's our Moldovan update. I wish I had more time, but honestly, I really have a lot more news I need to get to, and I apologize to the Moldovan people. And yeah, I apologize to the previous commenter there who was really annoying the hell out of me. It looks like these protests that we're seeing in Moldova are, because I was mixing it up. I thought they were protesting against. Yeah, I was getting my Moldovas mixed up with my Israel's. That's what it is. I was getting Moldova mixed up with Israel because there's a protest against that. Serenity now. I apologize. Thank you so much.